Today, we're going to be looking at the globe. If you zoom in, you'll see imaginary lines dividing the countries. This we're familiar with. But if you zoom out and look at the globe from afar, you'll notice that there are lines all across the globe that run vertically and horizontally. What are these lines called? And what do they tell us? Well, as people began to travel long distances to explore and trade, they needed a system to identify exact locations of every place on Earth. Relying on landmarks to navigate simply didn't cut it anymore. The solution was to create an imaginary grid system on Earth. The grid lines build from 3 locations we already know: the North Pole, the South Pole, and the equator. The equator is the most important line of latitude. It gets the most sun of any place on Earth, and it divides the Earth into the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. The other lines of latitude run parallel to the equator. Latitude lines run east and west, above and below the equator, and they show how far north or south a place is from the equator. Longitude lines run vertically, or north and south. In the 1600s, Galileo figured out how to measure lines of longitude using a ship's local time and the time at its home port. Galileo used the moon's and the Earth's rotation to determine the lines of longitude. While the equator was the obvious choice for the major line of latitude, the major longitude line was actually chosen in 1884 by a group of nations and is known as the Prime Meridian. It passes through Greenwich, England. Since longitude lines run north and south, they show us how east or west a place is from the prime meridian. Since remembering which lines run which way can be extremely confusing, I like to think of the lat from latitude as fat to help me remember. You can say latitude with a fat mouth, like this. Latitude. And you can say longitude like this. Longitude. Latitude. Longitude. Latitude. Longitude. Latitude. Longitude. Latitude. Longitude. Just like how the equator indicates the angle of the Earth that gets the most sun, which of course is the hottest, all of the other lines of latitude tell us more about climate as well. At 23.5 degrees north, locations on the imaginary line of latitude here get direct sun during the summer solstice, or the time of the year that the sun is the farthest north. This line is known as the Tropic of Cancer. At 23.5 degrees south, meaning south of the equator, locations on this imaginary line get direct sun during the winter solstice, or the time of the year that the sun is the farthest south. Remember the seasons? We're thinking about the angle of the sun hitting the Earth, right? This line is known as the Tropic of Capricorn. The area between these parallels is called the tropics, or tropic zone, sometimes referred to as the torrid zone. This area has the warmest average temperatures and gets the most rain. The area from the Tropic of Cancer up to 66.5 degrees north, this whole section And then from the Tropic of Capricorn all the way down to 66.5 degrees south is known as the temperate zone. It contains most of the Earth's land masses and has more moderate temperatures and rainfall all year round. This area also has what we're familiar with as the four seasons: winter, spring, summer, and fall. We live in the temperate zone. And the line at 66.5 degrees north is known as the Arctic Circle. And the line it's hard to see. 66.5 degrees south is known as the Antarctic Circle. From the Arctic Circle all the way up to 90 degrees north. And from the Antarctic Circle all the way down to 90 degrees south is known as the polar zone, or sometimes referred to as the frigid zone. These zones have the coldest temperatures on Earth. The 90 degrees north line of latitude is known as the North Pole. It actually is a little line that goes around. Imaginary, of course. And way down here, kind of really hard to see on this particular globe, but at 90 degrees south, the line of latitude is known as the South Pole. Your job is to label the major lines of latitude, the major line of longitude, and the climate zones. There will, of course, be a blank map available in the drive for those with a printer available. But for those who are not able to print, this activity will require a bit of creativity. But that's okay, because you're a Montessori student and you don't shy away from an opportunity to be creative. If you are unable to print the map, I suggest tracing the document from your device, labeling your globe with something removable, such as Post-it notes, and then take a picture. Or you can draw your own map to the absolute best of your ability and label the lines. Your artwork does not have to be perfect. Remember that the most important takeaway is that you understand where the lines are on a map or globe and understand why they're important. Bon voyage!